Senate voted overwhelmingly to block China from buying oil from the strategic reserves. The emergency stockpiles are at a 40-year low after the Biden administration's $180 million drawdown last year, which aimed to lower oil prices. That's due to rising oil prices after Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the West's sanctions. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin and Republican Ted Cruz sponsored the measure, which passed by a vote of 85-14.
We know that China has been amassing the largest stockpile of crude in the world. At the same time, our own reserves have fallen to only 347 million barrels, the lowest since 1983.
Last year, U.S. oil companies sold more than 83 million barrels to China. This year, the numbers are higher, with oil exports to China through April totaling more than 76 million barrels. This measure is an amendment in the NDAA, or National Defense Authorization Act, which sets policy for the Department of Defense. U.S. officials have always been concerned about sales from the reserve to China. They believe it could potentially hurt U.S. energy security while unintentionally bolstering an adversary. Similar legislation that passed the House in January, upping its chances of passing through all chambers and potentially getting signed into law.
The hacking infiltrated accounts tied to Washington's ambassador to Beijing, Nicholas Burns, and the State Department's senior envoy overseeing East Asia and the Pacific, Daniel Crittenbrink. That's according to Wall Street Journal on Thursday, citing 3 anonymous U.S. officials. They say it's part of a targeted intelligence-gathering campaign carried by Beijing earlier. Last week, the State Department said the hack was first discovered right around the time of Blinken's visit to Beijing in June. That campaign reportedly compromised hundreds of thousands of U.S. government emails, including Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo's email account. CNN also reported that hack may have given China insights into Blinken's Beijing visit. But exactly how serious is this attack? Though the email of Secretary of State Antony Blinken was not breached, Crittenbrink had accompanied Blinken on his China trip last month, and Burns took part in meetings held with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. While Raimondo has been one of the most outspoken critics of Beijing, she is also expected to visit China by the end of the summer. U.S. officials insist no classified information was accessed. But experts say the inboxes of Burns and Crittenbrink could have allowed Chinese hackers to glean insight into U.S. planning for a recent string of China visits. Many U.S. officials have labeled the Chinese Communist Party the most advanced U.S. adversary in cyberspace. The FBI says China has a larger hacking program than all other countries combined,
with targets ranging from government and military systems to media groups and major companies. According to cybersecurity firms and Western intelligence agencies, many of these Chinese hacking teams have Beijing support. Some of those identified go by names like Storm 0558, Volt Typhoon, Backdoor Diplomacy, APT-41, and APT-27. Those groups have been linked to a range of state-sponsored hacks on everything from U.S. critical infrastructure hubs to companies like Microsoft, plus the theft of millions of dollars in U.S. COVID-19 relief benefits. Outside American borders, other targeted entities include media, telecoms, and government systems in Kenya, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and Hong Kong, as well as German drug makers and technology companies. Beijing has denied involvement in those attacks and all forms of state-sponsored hacking. Instead, it has called itself a victim of cyber-espionage and labeled Washington the empire of hacking.